はじめまして。この度新たに記者のホームを担当することになりました。デイシュッタと申します。コードネームが必要でしたら、プロバイゾとお呼びください。一応お伝えしておきますが、コードネームで従業員の身分を曖昧にするというやり方は、私には通じませんよ。
Hello and welcome back to another appointment, doctors. Today we're going to talk about an interesting 5-star supporter who is often compared to a 4-star supporter, and that is Proviso. In a nutshell, Proviso is an upgraded version of Podenco, or to some extent, she is an expensive version of Podenco. We will cover that later within this video's discussion session, but now Proviso specializes in silence, burst damage, and true slow. Right now we have 3 options for diesel supporters within 5-star rarity, other being Istina and Glaucus. We'll do a short comparison with them later, but we'll focus with Podenco instead in that session. Let's cover her talent first. Her talent allows her to increase her attack speed and gives it to a random Casimir's operator. Similar to Exuzai's talent, this can only be triggered once the Casimir's operator is deployed, and the effect will disappear when Proviso or target operator retreats from the battlefield or defeated. Just like Exuzai, Proviso has auras around her to indicate her talent's activation, which is this green aura that you see on Proviso and Meteor. 10 points of attack speed is a decent boost, and while it's not significant, it is a welcome upgrade for additional DPS to whoever gets the buff. 2 of Casimir's operator are top tier DPS, which benefits from Proviso's buff. As for her module, she will restore her skill points faster by 0.2 skill points per second when there's an enemy within her range. She also increased her attack by 8% and can be used to buff another Casimir's ally. This module makes her infamously known to have great synergy with Milnar, but if you watch my Tequila video I posted the other week, I stated that Tequila does not have great synergy with percentage multiplier buffs, and this applies to Milnar because neither Tequila nor Milnar has high base attack. He does benefit well with the attack speed buff, so you can say Proviso's buff is inferior version of Ox's third skill. Unless you're trying to min-max damage, this module is already usable at level 1 and upgrades buff that are more of a completion and waifu purposes. I don't personally recommend you to upgrade it above level 1 as the materials can be used anywhere else. It's not worth raising Proviso for Milnar because you can use the extra materials on other buffers instead.
資料は全て揃っています。向こうの敗訴はもう決定的ですよ。
Despite her low base attack, this skill makes up for it by increasing her next attack by 300%, and this can store up to 3 times, which translates to 900% multiplier assuming she's attacking the same target 3 times. Attack scaling modifiers don't diminish incoming buffs, which makes her synergize well with buffers. She also increased her slow duration as well. Very simple but quite effective. Should you raise to mastery? Unless you really love her, probably not. This skill is very straightforward and strong, but it doesn't bring more utility other than that. With that being said, let's take a look at this skill's performance. This skill allows her to become a sniper diesel supporter with true slow on activation and silence utility. This skill has low skill point cost at 25 skill points. The slow from Proviso's skill and her basic attack doesn't stack, so the slow stagger will stay consistent over the course of 10 seconds. The enhanced attack speed allows Proviso to permanently slow any new enemy entering her range. For perspective, the slow from Proviso's attack is as strong as Istina's first skill and Angelina's second skill, but with shorter duration. Unlike Suzuran and Earth Spirit's skill, Proviso's skill act more like Elysium's second skill, where it only slows down enemies within their range and won't activate true slow on new enemies. But unlike Elysium, Proviso's skill slows down all enemies within her range, which makes it more convenient for Proviso to slow down enemies. With all that being said, let's take a look on the skill's performance. There's a reason why I didn't mention any of her skills are her bread and butter. When I showed my script to Zephy, he told me that Proviso's first skill is her bread and butter, which made me have a lot of doubts before posting this video. After plenty of testing, I find that Proviso's second skill is her bread and butter, at least in my opinion. For short answer, her bread and butter depends whether you really love her or not, or whether you're planning to use her often. If you do, her first skill is her bread and butter. If not, then her second skill is. Here's why. In situations where you want to use Proviso as a single target sub DPS, then her first skill is better. Her skill multiplier is high and 900% arch damage is huge versus Diesel supporter. Both her skills are attack scaling modifier, and since this skill can charge up to 3 times, this skill gained the most benefit from buffers like bards. But in cases where you want to use her as Diesel supporter, then her second skill is better. Fair enough in comparison, her second skill damage is not great against her first skill, but in majority of stages, you don't generally stall only one enemy, otherwise there's no point to bring them. I always believe for Diesel supporters, it's better if they can target more than one enemy so they don't feel redundant and waste of slot. And if you do need to stall only one enemy, then I expect them to provide permanent slow, like Istina's first skill or Angelina's second skill. Even though silence is niche, Proviso provides true slow and fast attack speed to make that up. Her silence prevents her from dying too quickly when you're facing enemies that can explode. I'm not saying that her first skill is terrible. In fact, when I tested her, there were times where I felt like her first skill would have been a better pick. Few of those stages are where there's not a lot of enemies within a single wave. But on the other hand, using her for this felt a waste of slot, if you know what I mean. Every time I build my team, and I'm pretty much the majority of other people as well, I always consist at least one high ground true DPS operator, and that could be a sniper or caster. As for my case, it's either Blue Poison, Platinum, or Lizzie, if we don't count the 6 stars. Because of this, when I used Proviso's first skill, she felt like a dead weight because the enemies were dead way too quickly. Her second skill on the other hand is not consistent, but felt impactful. Even though I don't use it often every time I use her in battle, she definitely contributes more when I need it, especially when the enemy wave is overwhelming. Yes, we have Estina's huge AoE slow and fast attack speed, Glaucus's huge AoE, better nuke and long duration bind, and Manticore's true AoE slow as better option. And there's no denying on that. But for me personally, I don't see a reason why I should use her first skill often when my main DPS already deal with mobs easily. How about you? Do you find her first skill is her bread and butter or her second skill? I'll leave that up to you to decide. Again, that's my opinion, so it really depends which skill you prefer the most. You can always disagree with me, and that's okay, and let me know in the comments. Now, we can't have a Proviso video without comparing her with Podenco. Within popular beliefs, many people say that Proviso is Podenco, just more expensive. As for me, well, you can say I agree to that statement. There are notable differences of course, being that Podenco's talent is supporter exclusive buff while Proviso is Casimir's only buff with Exousia-like mechanic. Fair enough that Podenco's damage is not as impressive as Proviso due to lower rarity, but that's not the point of Diesel supporters as their main role is to stall your enemies, unless you're Angelina of course. Podenco's value as a supporter more or less the same to Proviso's, just slightly different. Personally, I don't think DPS chart is even necessary because that's not the main reason why you should build Proviso or Podenco, otherwise there's no point of building casters. But of course, this is Arknights, so DPS matters especially in late game where no matter what class or archetype you are in, even if you're a defender or medic, your DPS still matters. So, here is the DPS chart. Podenco's skill translates to 480% arts damage over the course of 6 seconds, which is already higher than Proviso's second skill, where it only deals 350% arts damage during activation. Of course, if we assume that both of them only attack one enemy, Proviso wins, but in cases where it's AoE, Podenco wins. Her damage is strong for a 4-star, and don't forget that she also increased her own attack from her talent. Not to mention, her smoke can target enemies outside of her range and incoming enemies are still affected by her silence, unlike Proviso where the silence applies during activation. Proviso's spot felt redundant. She is good, don't get me wrong, but with so many better options for slow and lots of ways to apply silence, Proviso's investment felt redundant to say the least. Of course, she still has the niche, but again, Podenco already took her spot, especially she has better skill uptime than Proviso and cheaper to invest. While I personally think her investment is still worth it, she is late to the party. But it's worth to note that if you care to min-max base, then Proviso can worth the investment. For new players, you should not invest on characters for base. You should always put combat as your priority, and if you're not into that, then prioritize your husband or waifu first. I'm gonna be honest with you all, I forgot that Proviso even exists because her design is... Well, she is worth investing, although I said that with a huge grain of salt. After what I showed you, I wouldn't consider to build her if you already built Podenco, especially that their kit is very similar and slow or silence options within this game are wide. But if you do want to use her and love to min-max space skills, then she can be worth the investment. And with that concludes our appointment. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like so this video can get noticed by the algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out my videos. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in our next appointment. This is Neko signing out. Have a nice day and best of luck at hunting, Doctor.
Maybe I'm a little too shy, always trying to be the wise guy. The thought of you under the moonlight is running all over my mind.